down on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Well, they are the new kids on the block. The 112th Congress has the largest freshman class in 6 decades. Joining me now, two members of that class, Republican Dennis Ross of Florida and Democratic Congressman Hansen Clarke of Michigan. Welcome to both of you, and first, gentlemen, to both of you, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Right. I'm going to start out with
a little... in unison. We make a good team.
It looks like it. Well, we're going to start with some bipartisanship, actually. How's that on a positive note here? Both of you ran on the platform of job creation. Tough jobs number that the markets got today. That's hurting the business side of things. Representative Ross, are you planning to draft legislation to address the problem of jobs?
Well, if I don't draft legislation, I'll at least support the legislation. And it's not about creating government jobs. It's creating sustainable private sector jobs. And you have to do that in two fashions. You have to reduce taxes, and you have to loosen up the regulatory burden that businesses have today. So, comprehensively, we need to move in that fashion as soon as we can.
And Congressman Clarke, I mean, you being from the Detroit area, you better than anyone knows how difficult the job situation is for your state. What do you plan to do to address that exact issue, which, again, you ran on?
Sure. Now, I represent Metro Detroit. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. But here's a shocker. We have jobs in Detroit. We have a great need for nurses, but we have to go to Canada to hire nurses. We need a lot of engineers, but we have to go to Asia to hire engineers. What we need to focus better on is training people for the jobs that are in high demand. We have a school system right now that allows kids to drop out. So we have an unemployment rate of over 50. That's 50%, especially when it comes to African-American males. And when they do graduate, our kids many times can't even read. So we got to focus on the basics, strengthen our schools, strengthen job training. We've got to do that initially because there are jobs here in this economy. We got to better train people to match them up so they can get employed. We don't need to hire folks from overseas necessarily for jobs that Americans can be trained for.
Well, certainly Americans need jobs. Americans also, gentlemen, and this is to both of you, in November they voted on the issue of federal debts in this country. And Secretary Geithner, Treasury Secretary Geithner, coming out today, some new news for you, saying basically this, and let me read you his quote, and I want to get you each to respond to this. He said, even a very short-term or limited default of this country would have catastrophic economic consequences. Failure to increase the debt limit would be deeply, irresponsible. And he says, for these reasons, I'm requesting that Congress, that's the two of you, act to increase the limit earlier this year, well before the threat of default becomes imminent. Congressman Ross, you've talked about deficits in the past. Your response to the Treasury Secretary this morning?
We've got to take it seriously if we're going to stop spending. I am not convinced that raising the debt ceiling is going to be healthy for this economy or healthy for this nation. What we have to do is we have to start our belt tightening. We've got to reduce our spending. If we're not serious about it, then we don't need to be raising the debt ceiling. I'm not convinced that the debt ceiling needs to be raised. You see, we are the most powerful country out there. We have to deal from a position of strength. We can negotiate. We can work through this, and we're going to have to work through this because if we continue to open-end our credit card, we're never going to be able to catch up. We have record-setting deficits right now. It has to come to a stop.
Congressman Clarke, your response as well, sir?
I believe debt is bad overall. And our taxpayers right now are bearing too much debt. The national debt that we have to pay, that huge interest payments that we have to spend on that debt. And also, I think it creates a national security risk when we have foreign countries that we owe huge amounts of money to. But the most crushing debt, I believe, on our taxpayers is consumer debt. From their mortgage, from their credit cards, from their student loans. You see, many people that I represent do have jobs, but the problem is they're not financially secure because most of their income is being spent paying off bills, paying off creditors. So my main goal right now to stabilize the economy, to get people out of debt, is to help them stay in their homes and not lose their homes due to foreclosure. Unfortunately, I believe we're going to have another wave nationally of foreclosures and evictions unless we stop it. That could destabilize our entire economy and ruin the property values for all of us, and that's where our bulk of our life savings are, in our homes. So that's what we need to do.
Representative Ross, this is Sandra Smith here. You guys have both been talking about job creation and what we need to do to stimulate job growth in this country, rightly so. How do you respond to the folks on the other side of the aisle right now who are criticizing the Republicans in Congress for acting to repeal health care they're saying that this is simply going to take away from job creation right now.
Just to the contrary. This health care bill, in its current form, is more government intrusion, is more government debt. We can repeal this and start with market-based approaches. We can start doing the interstate sale of health insurance policies where we allow 1,200 companies to sell across state lines to give consumer choices. You see, if it's a consumer-driven economy instead of a government-driven economy, we're going to come out of this a lot faster. But that's the first move we need to make. We've got the highest government involvement in our health care right now with this current bill, and we need to move back from that. It's precedent setting that government gets more and more involved in our lives and stifles our economic growth and our entrepreneurship. Moving away from this Obamacare, moving back to a market-based approach, I think is a step in the right direction, and the sooner the better.
Congressman Clarke, this is Bob O'Brien. Describe your early experience for us, if you would, there on Capitol Hill. Do the Democrats feel as though they're completely on the defensive and that the GOP is basically going to dictate the terms of the debate over the next several months?
Let me just speak for myself. First of all, my job is to try to make Representative Ross a Republican wrong. The people I represent, they just want to get back to work and get out of debt and be financially stable. He and I are committed to the same things. We have the same values, I believe. We may have different approaches to it, but I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to try to work with him. In fact, I know we're going to work with him. So if we stay focused on what our people want, what the taxpayers need, spend their money as efficiently as possible, relieve them of the burden of consumer debt and this national debt, better train people, try to keep them in their homes, stimulate our economy, and definitely restore our manufacturing sector. Look, I'm from Detroit. When this country was strong is when we were building and making things, using the innovation and the hard work and the brilliance that we have as Americans. So, look, we can come together. My job is to keep an open mind and work with Representative Ross. I'm not here to make anybody wrong. I just want to help people live more comfortably and have greater peace of mind here in this country, and especially in the area that I represent.
Well, I tell you what, to both of you, congratulations again, and we'd love to have you both back. You do make a great team, as you mentioned there, Congressman Clarke. It's great to have you both on the show, and we will talk to you very, very soon. Republican Congressman Dennis Ross of Florida, Democratic Hansen Clarke of Michigan. Two new gentlemen. I like this very much in the halls of Congress.
Sure.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, everybody.